Yes, okay, let's start. Yes, thank you for showing up. We have had many lectures already. But I'm here now to tell you about Näppäri, the Näppäri pedagogics. My name is Anni Järvelä. I grew up with the system and I work as an education manager at the Kansanmusiikki-instituutti at the moment. So in that role today, I thought I would begin with the Kaustinen fiddling tradition, but I think most of you are quite familiar with it. Are you? Yes, you are. Okay, so let's go through this quite fast. As we all know, folkviolin has been played in Kaustinen since the 1700s, and the tradition has mostly been passed on within families. And in that process, the weddings have played a central role. The weddings could take up to 3 days, and music was played all the time during the ceremonies. And that's where you could come and pick up these tunes also, most often. And another thing was that when people visited each other, many people used to have instruments hanging on their walls, and it was a way to be social, to play together. Today we have hundreds of amateur musicians, dancers and singers in all age groups in Kaustinen and in the surrounding areas. And as we all know, the Kaustinen fiddle playing was included on the UNESCO's list of intangible cultural heritage in December 2021. And nowadays the tradition is mostly passed on through formal and non-formal education, which you will hear more about later. But before that, I think I would like to shed some light on the Finnish music school system in the 80s, which was, the 80s was the time when the Näppäri style of teaching started to evolve. So that's why I think it's important to understand the concept where it was born to. So the Finnish music school system in the 80s was based on degree-oriented conservatories mostly. And by conservatories I mean that the conservatories were not only for professional studies, but they were also for kids and young. And the pros, the system was quite effective, and it has produced a wide range of solid professionals and many high-profile artists. But the cons were that, or still that, or at that time, that the system was quite selective and it could not involve everybody, and also the context was quite narrow, basically. Only music from the, I would say, Eastern Bloc states was represented in the curriculum, basically. And another possibility at that time was to study at open colleges, which was mostly aimed for adult learners, but this was the surroundings where Näppäri pedagogics started to evolve. We moved from Helsinki to Kaustinen in the beginning of 80s or in the end of the 70s. I can't remember that quite well, but and that's Mauno Järvelä, who is my dad, noticed that there were quite many kids here in Kaustinen who wanted to play. So there was already teaching going on back then, lots of eager kids and young who wanted to play. And the musical tradition was quite strong already back in those days. But the local conservatory, music conservatory, could only give 2 places on a yearly basis that you could. There were only like so few places available for those who wanted to start to study. So we didn't want to make the kids compete towards each other, and ended up not recommending these entrance exams to the conservatories to anyone. So basically we all grew up studying at the Perho River Valley Open College. And the system was quite inclusive, low barriers. Everyone who wanted to play could play. And it was also flexible. In case you wanted to do these degrees and exams at the conservatory, you could do that. And through that path you could become a professional musician also in the end, if you wanted. The emphasis was on folk music and local traditions, and the Näppäri music was developed on these bases. And as the traditional Kaustinen tunes were quite tricky, so you weren't quite, it wasn't really a good idea to start by playing those tunes. So that's why there was a need to develop material that was suitable for beginners also. And at this point I'd like to emphasize that we don't think that the Näppäri pedagogics is actually folk music pedagogics, but it is like, we think of it as a bridge to the world of folk music. We introduce different styles and genres to people. But it is but it is still based on traditional music. Also new music, and we have influences from many other genres. As I already said, we have classical music, pop, other cultures, history. Singing is important, and lyrics are both traditional and new. And we use sheets as support, but style is mostly adapted by listening, or always adapted by listening. And as I already said, the principles of the Näppäri method is that to offer the opportunity to learn music to anyone who wants it, and we want to make playing music a part of daily life. And that's the idea to that comes from the old days where people met up and picked up their instruments and played together. So that's what we want to achieve again. So it's a part of being social, simply. And also we want to encourage musicians of all ages and levels to play together and to keep the folk music tradition vibrant and incorporate into the curriculum, which has already happened, but it still needs to be worked on, I'd say. And one of the key things in the Näppäri pedagogics is the local traditions, so that we think that it's good for the musical diversity that we keep these small traditions alive, or try to keep them alive. And by doing all this, we like to promote unrestricted, timeless music education. And these sentences are from the, I don't know, maybe the 90s. And I think we need to think about the unrestrictedness and timeless. Timeless, yeah, it could be, but being unrestricted has, in my opinion, gained a lot of new meanings recently, which we need to address before we can say that. Today, Näppärit, they get together weekly here in Kaustinen as a group of 80 to 100 players. We rehearse weekly. And we mostly play Näppäri material. The kids who come to the weekly group rehearsals, they do have their individual lessons in different places. So some of them go to the conservatory, and some of them go to the open college. Some of them get tuition through the Näppäri association, sorry. Because we're constantly struggling with the resources. We don't have as much resources as we would wish to have. We have many kids who want to play, and we can't really offer tuition to everyone at the moment. For that, we founded a Näppäri school with some extra funding, and now it has moved to be a part of the conservatory in Kokkola nowadays. But it's still in transition, the process, and let's see how it ends. We hope for the best. And we do a lot of international cooperation with the Nordic countries, other European countries, South Africa. At the moment, we have one South African musician at the festival who has been playing with Näppäri. A very nice cooperation, and we've built a whole set of South African marimbas, which we have here. And we use them in teaching music theory, for example, but also teaching when we teach about other cultures, obviously. So that has been a lot of fun. And most importantly, we want to encourage others to explore as well their surrounding traditions. And for that we have these Näppäri courses throughout Finland, and many teachers in music schools, they use Näppäri music as a part of their teaching, but that's not our aim or our goal that everybody would play just Näppäri music. We want people to get inspired and try to find material of their own, from their own surroundings. And yeah, next. We have some research going on about Näppäri at the University of the Arts in Helsinki. Mia Lamminmäki, who is a former Näppäri student, and he has she's doing research in between changing society and sustaining heritage, elevating locality music education in and through the Näppäri practice in Finland, which is quite interesting to see where she ends up to. So there you can find more information about her study. And I know we have another study starting in China in the Central Conservatory in Beijing, but I can't tell you so much more about that yet because it's all the beginning. But it is also interesting to see what happens there. And another news is education. We are launching a specialization in Näppäri pedagogics at the Centria University of Applied Sciences next year. So you can apply to study Näppäri pedagogics, which is really, we are going to launch a press release of that, I think today.
Today, I
Yes.
think they'll be in Finnish, of course, stories.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm the head of that music program at Centria. So it is a part of the 240 credits music pedagogy program. You just select a specialization. This.
And sorry, where is this University of Applied
Kokkola.
Sciences? Kokkola.
Yes.
It's got 3 campuses, Pietarsaari, Kokkola and Ylivieska. But we are in, music is in Kokkola. Yeah. So close by.
Yeah, but we're planning on making it quite hybrid so that you could also study from Helsinki in case you're there.
It'll be hybrid.
Yeah.
That's good. And would it fit within this on a European level within Erasmus exchange? It's kind of
I think yes, it does.
because
If
it's
we have,
community.
yeah, if we have we have to make an agreement, but that's not hard. But yes, it at first will be taught in Finnish. So then I don't think it's a problem if somebody came for exchange to,
Yeah, I don't think so.
so for them to come in. But we don't have a program in English for it yet. But maybe in the future. And we have to see what if somebody came for an exchange. They could pick out those classes specifically. Yeah, yeah, definitely. Erasmus is a good tool for that.
Mm.
And since they will be like a half a week or a week here, a week there, so it's quite easy to come for like doing one of those intensive courses or the VIPs even.
Mm.
Erasmus tools.
Yeah. So, I mean, this process is still, we have just begun planning this program, this study program, and it has actually, it's very useful for us also because we think a lot about the pedagogics now.
Yeah, we'll have it ready in November when they publish all following. So,
Yeah.
the exact curriculum.
So it's a very interesting program.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We all have to think differently. I come from the classical tradition, so I have to think very differently.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
It's good for us all.
Yeah. And the system, well, I can talk to you more about it. We're planning on that you can have your main, mikä on pääaine?
Main instrument, also your genre.
Yeah.
If it's pop and jazz or folk music or classical, and still take the pedagogy.
Yeah, so you could have like classical violin as your main studying point, but then you could also still, you can take the, you can graduate from the program as a classical violinist also. But being able to
everybody graduates as a music pedagogue. That's the only program.
Yeah.
But the main, it depends on what.
Yeah, but my point is that you don't need to be a folk musician to take these studies. You can be a jazz musician, a classical
jazz
musician.
guitarist, and still learn the Näppäri pedagogics.
Yes.
Yeah, so it will be really interesting to plan this.
It's interesting. We're working on it together a lot.
Yeah, indeed. So that's basically it. I know many of you probably know Näppäri, but I still think I would show you some practical examples before we go on to the discussion part. As I mentioned, the Kaustinen tunes are quite tricky, so you can't really start by playing them. So they developed this pizza challenge to the kids who are a little bit more advanced in their playing. So that means that they get a set of tunes that they need to learn. I think it's about 10 tunes at a time. And once you have learned all the tunes, the kids gather together with the local master musicians to play the tunes together with them. And if they say that the tunes are okay, they might give some feedback. Then they get pizza. And then after that they get a new set of tunes. So that's how we motivate them to learn these local traditional tunes. Here's the pizza group. That's an example of the older kids playing the traditional tunes. And then, sitten Laura, pitää päästä takaisin siihen. Mitä? Eskillä. Aha. Yep. Another example is where we have included some classical music, influences from the classical music. There's no picture, so I will just play this. And I have some scores which I printed out in case you want to see how the arrangements are made. This is made by Anni Järvelä. And the lyrics here are made by the kids themselves together with the teachers. So this is a very common Karelian song called Mottikaalina with some classical ingredients, I'd say. that's it. This recording was made in the end of one of the Näppäri courses that we have yearly in Finland. We usually start a new program in the beginning of June at the big Näppäri course here in Kaustinen. This year I think we have more than 300 kids attending. And then we have another in southern Finland and a third one in eastern Finland. And then after that the kids gather here at the festival, and everyone who wants, they gather here to play the program together. And yes, we had the last concert just now at 1 o'clock today. I think we were over 400 kids on stage together. And so the material here in this case was, you couldn't probably hear, but the fiddlers, for example, who could not play a lot, they played only an open G string. And then if you're more advanced, you can play in different positions which are needed in the other parts then later on. And singing is very important since that's how everyone can participate. Another example I have is a more simple one. I think I also have a score on that one. Karhunpeijäispolske traditional kantele, tune for 5-string kantele in Finland. And this arrangement has been made by Anni Järvelä. So, and here the smallest ones can participate again by playing open strings.
And this is a Polska.
Yeah, a Polska in this case is not divided in three. It's done in Finland. It is often like that, like as in Tutskovin Polska also. Yeah. The material is mostly based on the traditional Kaustinen instrumentation, which is violins, harmoniums, double basses, which means that the keys are mostly D major, A major, G major, and which is obviously challenging for brass instruments, for example. But we try to take them into account also more and more now, since they basically the brass instruments came along in the beginning because their siblings were probably playing at the Näppäri courses and they wanted to just come along and play together also. So that's when we started to arrange some material for the brasses also and other instruments. But that's why the keys are quite hard and complicated for them. Well, we try to fix some tunes always in C major and stuff so that it would be easier for them also, so that they don't need to play so difficult parts. But basically, so we often get inquiries of are we going to develop a similar system to brass instruments, but we're actually hoping that the new study program would help us with that matter. So maybe we will get there some wind players who want to start developing the system and the material also for brasses. Niin mahdollisesti miten mä saan tän dia-esityksen taas tonne. Thank you. Niin on, mutta se ei tuolla. Niin. Eikö? Yeah, but that's it. That's all I actually had to say today. I wanted to save some time for questions and discussion. So I have to discuss any matters that you would want to talk about the study program, about the style of teaching, anything. Please come with questions.
Well, I don't know if it's something you can answer already, but it's certainly exciting that there's going to be an official teaching program to teach the teachers. But I'm also wondering how you're going to teach them something that's been like, just like folk music. It's been kind of like in your blood or in your society all these years, and it's obviously spread like from some families to the circle is much wider now than it was, but I'll be at least very interested to see how it's taught, like how you express that in words or in something that you can repeat with somebody else who maybe didn't grow up here.
Yeah, we are interested also.
But what I think is like when we think about my two daughters, they're singing now, but they used to play violin, and they came to Näppäri every summer, and I was there with them when they were so small. And I remember my older daughter saying, "Oh, next time I'm going to be playing the C." So I realized that she meant the more difficult, because it's the A special and the A group and whatever they're called nowadays, and the B and the C is like the parts get more and more difficult. So you're a tiny one and you're there in the front and you're playing nothing pretty much. You're singing, you're playing maybe an open string or something, and you keep hearing this motivation that comes to you. I think that's like one of the best parts of Näppäri, other than being together and having fun, but that you constantly, your motivation, you're hearing this stuff that I'm going to be playing next summer, and then I used to print all the parts out, which was a lot of parts for the whole summer, because I didn't know which one. I said, well, if this piece you could play the C part, you know, and they did, and they got better every year. And that's, I think everybody who's there, they look up to the ones that are behind.
Yeah, you're right.
It's a great part of this kind of teaching, and the fact that you can be whoever and know whatever, and you can play wrong as much as you can. It doesn't matter, because the group is there and it sort of melts in. So you don't have to know anything, but then you start.
Yeah, but
it's a positive way of, instead of the classical tradition that we all maybe grew up with. I used to play the flute, so it's very scale-oriented.
Yeah, to try to answer your question somehow is that when we started to tour around Finland with these Näppäri courses, it was very often the case that the teachers themselves, they didn't even show up from the local music schools. Or if they showed up, they would sit in the audience and look at the kids playing. It was kind of not familiar at all to them to play together with their students.
Yeah.
But that has changed because, and that's not at all how I grew up here, because I always grew up playing with those skilled professional musicians, and I never even questioned that would that be okay or not. But nowadays it's quite different, but I still see a lot of that. Okay, obviously it's important for you to know how to follow a conductor, obviously. I suffered quite a lot when I became a professional orchestra musician and couldn't actually follow conductors. But still, I mean, I think by playing together, the teacher gives you an instant example of how, where to, what you should try to achieve as a student. So this is one of the models we're going to emphasize. And another thing is that we're going to emphasize the local, trying to encourage people to find their own materials, how to arrange, how to work with the different traditions. And also we're going to work a lot with sustainable development in terms of socially sustainable developments, culturally sustainable development. How do you work with other cultures, and what is the essence, the idea of working with different cultures, and all these kinds of aspects. So in my opinion, or in our opinion, for example, I myself got classically trained, but I still work a lot with folk music, so that's how I'm not saying that studying only folk music would be a bad thing, but I've found it to be a good thing to be flexible, to be able to do various different things as a professional musician, and that's what we also like people to encourage. We'd like to encourage people to do with the study program. And that's why you don't need to be a folk musician to become a Näppäri teacher.
And I guess it will be a shift from the traditional instrument teacher, because we only have music pedagogues, not the classroom teachers. That's a different school. So if you are trained to teach piano or something, you're trained for that instrument. And the Näppäri pedagogy, you usually have a group. It's group teaching and a group sense of belonging to something. It's a little bit different idea, and also our traditional teaching styles we have to open up. That there might be the one that enjoys practicing and drilling the things that one person, and that person should be able to do that. Then there's a lot of other people who it would be great if they could just play as a hobby or whatever. So we need to be able to teach that in a sort of positive way. I think that's what Näppäri, what I've experienced, is just so positive.
Yeah, and as I mentioned earlier, this stage that we are in now is very interesting, because this is when we really need to define a lot of things related to the Näppäri pedagogics.
You've done it for how many years? 30, 40 years?
4 years? Yeah.
So now it has to be put to words and concepts. What you be doing.
And another thing that is quite important in the Näppäri pedagogics is that exactly that you're allowed to make mistakes, but you don't. I mean, you're not allowed to make mistakes just for fun. But you need to try to emphasize always when we talk about the pedagogics. Is also people think that you can just come there and just try to hang on and try to but it's not about that. You need to do your best, but you still are allowed to make mistakes, which wasn't the case back in the old days. We had lots of ruins who came to our classes before. Loads of kids started to cry when they came and did not play the right tunes, the right notes immediately. So that was a big crisis, but that's not the case anymore, I think.
Well, I think is a positive group pressure in the Näppäri rehearsal, where you actually want to do your best, even if it's said that mistakes are allowed. It gives you a little bit of freedom. You're not afraid, but you feel like together. Usually there's 2 or 3 standing, if there's a music stand or something, playing together, and you find a friend really quickly that you play with, and you try together your best. It's a little bit different than alone being excellent at something. It's a small kid.
Any other questions?
Just a comment. You remember I had really this great opportunity to be here last month with students from German University, Franz Liszt. Many of them studying music education. And so it was an amazing experience for them to see. And the first thing they immediately recognized here was motivation.
Yeah.
And this has to do with what you said.
Yeah.
And also this sense of inclusion.
Yes.
You know? And it's amazing how you reach that from the perspective of a music education like it is done in Germany, very much based on didactic approaches, didactic courses and so on. They stress this very much. They are very good musicians. But to motivate kids, this is something completely different. And this is what you see immediately when you get acquainted with Näppäri. So, and by the way, there is one of the students wants to make the bachelor's on Näppäri. So you have another research
Nice.
done on that.
Nice.
So, and wants to introduce it also to our, make others aware of what is going on here, because that's very important. Music education is so important nowadays, especially in countries with strong migration, and so all these topics are being discussed, and the way you do it here is because of this motivation.
I think the surroundings also support it, because we have like a whole ecosystem here.
Exactly.
Yeah, we have the festival. We will also have run a chamber music festival in the winter, and then lots of concerts and opportunities for the kids to do fun things with music. And also the fact that their friends play, their families play, has a huge impact. Because I was teaching 10 years in a regional conservatory without these surroundings, not in Kaustinen.
Exactly.
So I know the difference.
Yeah, exactly.
So obviously I used this material, the kids liked it, and that was the way to get everyone involved. So I did use this, but it's not as easy.
No.
It's not only the material, it's a matter of many different things coming together.
Sort of the attitude of the school and the families and everybody's sort of being in it.
Yeah,
It's
so
like a football team in a way, where you need a lot of support from home.
Tiago, you have seen the sweet side of it, because you have been here during the summer course, where I think 3 out of 4 kids who come from elsewhere.
Exactly.
And it's a special occasion for them, and
Do they have a holiday?
it's their summer holiday beginning. But then maybe you could only tell, how do you motivate our local kids in November?
In November,
yeah, in the middle of the darkest winter, yes, we threaten them.
But also I saw it was beautiful to see. I was just playing near to the father playing violin, and his 2 kids were playing there also. And he said, well, when I was a kid, I was in exactly the same situation. Beautiful also to see your family. I mean, 3 generations. And this is really educating someone for a better humanity. I don't know how to, it sounds big, but it has to do with that. I mean, the experience, it's not, you are not training people to be professional musicians, but these kids, they get an experience here, which is important for their entire life.
Yeah, I mean, I myself have experienced it exactly that way. when I moved away from Kaustinen, I lived 20 years in other places before moving back. That was first then I noticed that this is actually something special, but I also noticed then that I actually have a lot of tools now with me to understand other cultures also, which I've been very grateful for.
And today we were discussing this morning about something else, so I've been thinking a while that this is Näppäri is a way of peace education, education for peace, social coherence, just cultural literacy, all of those things that are now very, very important.
And which have, and they are linked directly to the convention.
Yeah, they are all linked directly.
So this is the bridge you mentioned.
Yes, it's the bridge, and it's great to be a part of the event. And it's great to be listed because this has given us a whole new framework to talk about the things we do, the vocabulary.
Exactly.
Because it is exactly what we've been doing. But did you have a question?
Yeah, I actually was just wondering, but it's probably you might not be the right person to answer as you grew up with it. So it's something that came absolutely naturally to you because it was the environments you grew up in. But I was wondering kind of when really focusing on pedagogy, of course now you have told a little bit of your track record, which means that you have been focusing on pedagogy issues, particularly through your professional life. But thinking about it, in the region, is there inspiration from elsewhere as well that you have taken on board? Because I'm asking this question because in the 1980s, I met the same type of musical expression and teaching children in Sweden. So this is where my question is: Do you have any contacts with that level as well?
Lots of contact. Yes, we do have long cooperations with Swedish and Norwegian instances. And for example, Norway has been quite important. The connection to Norway, there's lots of similar things going on there, which we have used also in our.
Which is actually such a different way of teaching music than what Tiago was mentioning, and was, as I come from Estonia, we also had the German system to which was added Russian system, which is so much on finding out musical genius and then bringing it to the full bloom, this nurturing it, and which means that actually the overall music making for the community can suffer heavily.
Yes.
Yeah, and now when although we had a very good music teaching system, now we see that it is to a certain extent also crumbling. Well, somewhere it's crumbling, then this is rising in other places.
I think one of the strengths in Kaustinen fiddling tradition is that we actually have had a close connection with the classical music tradition throughout. I don't know, maybe since the beginning. I mean, I think the roots of these traditions are in classical music very much, and we've had people play classical music also all the time here in these villages. So the classical musicians have been very eager to play folk music and vice versa. So I think that could be one thing that has kept the tradition alive also.
Just reminding me, you mentioned these connections or influences from Eastern European musical traditions.
In the Finnish music school system.
Yeah.
Yes.
And because Hungary, for instance, violin is very, very strong. With its own repertoire, Verbonkos, Charles, and so on. And my violin teacher in Brazil, she was Hungarian. And it was her way of teaching, certainly, but she would also put her whole the entire group of students, from the beginners to the more developed, together in so very similar to what you do.
That's
It's
unusual.
different, yeah.
Yeah.
And also mixed with some folk musics. Well, but in Hungary you have those composers like Bartók and Zoltán Kodály, of course.
There are some strong influences, yes. Yeah. But then we had lots of material from the old Soviet countries, and since a lot of Finnish pedagogues have been studying in the Soviet, so I think the influence was quite heavy.
Yeah, and Kodály and Bartók based all the teaching methods on traditional music.
They did,
So
yes.
it's kind of coming back to full circle. But I thought that one key word that could be reiterated is inspiration, inspirational teaching. I mean, this is definitely one of the major keys that you managed to touch here in the Kaustinen area.
I met in Helsinki actually, where did I meet? At some gym, this girl, and we were talking about what we're doing in the summer, and I said, oh, I'm going to Kaustinen. She said, oh, I wish I could go there, but I'm 26, I'm too old for Näppäri, I don't want to give it up. And I said, come, why don't you come? She thought she was too old, but it's like people get this feeling of something that they miss when they grow up.
Oh, I have to tell you, I just heard one of our old students who then quit playing in Näppäri and started to play rock music, but she had some severe trouble in school, got bullied, and was feeling very bad. But she has been getting back on her feet slowly again and found her surroundings in a rock band at the conservatory that is practicing at the conservatory, and they were giving their spring concert, and their instructor got sick and couldn't show up, so they had to play without their instructor, and the girl's mother was very concerned since her self-esteem has been very low and because of these experiences, but she and the group still decided to give it a go, and they performed, and the piece went like okay, but not that well. And after the piece was they had played the piece, some of the band members actually started to cry since they were so nervous, and but they had one more piece to do, and then this girl started to encourage her bandmates, like, okay, you know what, we can do this, and then they gathered back on stage, and she actually led the whole thing. She showed when they had their solos and everything, and tried to encourage them, and her mother was like, what happened to you? And then she said, you know, Mom, I've been to Kaustinen so many years, I know how to take care of these kind of situations. So that's what we also, I mean, that's not only the music, but the whole, I was so happy to hear that.
There's a type of leadership you do learn there.
Yeah.
Taking responsibility.
Yeah.
And it's a positive
Yeah.
leadership. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Just a question regarding the repertoire.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have it's beautiful pieces, you know. Two of them you played also now here. Are they composed? Because the style is also for someone coming from abroad. Is this really Kaustinen folk music tunes? No, it's not. Is it classical? No. What is it?
I know.
It's amazing. No, it's amazing. And it works perfectly. I mean, it's beautiful. And to sing and to play at the same time, these are beautiful. You know, it's also for, it makes fun also to those who listen to it.
Yeah.
Not only to those who play.
Yeah, I mean, we have, yes.
Are these composed pieces, or the first one you showed from your brother Esko, I think, there was, he inserted a piece of Khachaturi,
Khachaturi, yes.
and so.
Yeah.
But this was the only one I recognized. The other ones are what?
The melody is
Fully
traditional.
composed or
no, the-
arranged or-
The melody is a traditional Karelian melody, and then otherwise it's arranged.
Yeah.
But it's arranged to an extent that you could almost call it a composition, because there's so
I
much.
think Mauno also has a lot.
Yeah, Mauno has a lot, but mostly it's others who
Okay.
arrange nowadays. He might compose some tunes,
Exactly, this was
but others do the arranging nowadays. He did it before, and we've been lucky to have arrangements from people who have grown up with the systems, so they know what you should write, what works, what doesn't work. It's not that simple to just write something to this kind of ensemble. You need to know it from inside.
Another really fun thing is the texts of the songs, because they're often actual historical facts, especially the ones that Mauno has written. And then my daughter's birthday, they had a test at school and she knew some year for some battles somewhere here, some sort of war. And I'm like, how did you know that year? I don't know that one, that battle. Oh, it's in the Näppäri, so blah, 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 blah. It's coming, in the sentences. And also there was the life history of Stravinsky in one of the songs and things like that, that they know when they're 3 or 4 and they can repeat them so they come out of their head when they're older. Oh, how do I know that? Oh yes, it's in a Näppäri song. There's a lot of fact there, actually, historical fact, and about music too.
Yeah. So I mean, I think we're out of time soon. So I think there's a lot of good things that we have achieved during these years, but there's still a lot to do. When I mentioned the unrestrictiveness of these pedagogics, obviously we need to work on that still a lot, and that is a thing that needs to be worked on constantly.
And so the repertoire is growing probably.
Yeah, and how can we, for example, we had kids with special needs on stage on both of our concerts yesterday and today. I don't think anyone noticed that, but we had a group of kids with special needs, but they had to have their own instructors there.
Yeah.
We don't have the tools for teaching kids with special needs and kids who get stressed in big crowds with big noises and stuff like that. They can't come. And obviously with the cultural differences and everything, there's always a lot of things that we need to take into account when we want to develop the system. So please, and we're open to criticism also, so maybe if you have any thoughts, so let us know. But thank you. I think, did you have any?
The first impact is always positive. So
Yeah, okay. Yeah. I think that's it.